There you go. Letting people in now.
Good luck. Hello, everybody.
Joining from the car. Hey, Guy.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. If you're in the Central Time Zone, maybe good night or a very good morning to some of you. I see Cirque is nodding. We realize you are in Jakarta, and so you are on your own time zone, and we are so pleased and happy to have you all here. I'm going to introduce my colleagues before we get to the session. To the right of me on my screen, I have my colleague Nayo Gariepi. You want to say hi, Nayo?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, hi everyone. Bonjour tout le monde.
And to the right of me, I have my colleague Valerie Ndweni.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back for those of you who've been to other sessions. And those of you, if this is your first session, you're in for a treat.
And thank you. First and foremost, before we even get to the guest of honor, Svens Telemaque, I'm going to pass it back to Valerie, who is going to introduce us to our first order of business, which is our land acknowledgement, and then I'll take it back. So, perfect. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you. It is important for us to acknowledge the lands that we are on. So before moving forward, please allow me to do the following. This is already the third edition of Power Skills. This year's theme, Lives Transformed, our post-pandemic era. I'd like to recognize that we at CATS acknowledge that our work in Montreal takes place on the unceded Indigenous lands of the Kanien'kehá:ka Mohawk Nation. This land is known as a gathering place for many First Nations, and at Power Skills, we are committed to use this summit as a place of gathering, connection, reconnection, and to empower all voices and perspectives by providing free and accessible learning opportunities and connection. I would definitely like to encourage you, if you're not in the Montreal area, to dig a bit deeper and find out more about the land by which you are on and inquire how we can all be advocates in bringing these messages to the forefront and allowing for everyone to understand that we are on land that didn't belong to us and that we are truly grateful to be here. With that said, I thank you for your energy and your time. I want to welcome our speaker, Svens Telemaque. He is somebody that I consider an angel, and I consider him an angel. I call him this, and I'm going to tell you why, and you'll see that in the presentation. About 7 or 8 years ago, maybe longer, I was working for an organization that was helping young people understand how to know their legal rights when being accosted or spoken to by the police. And in our marginalized community, this is something that we deal with regularly. I was working with another young man who we were going through some issues, and he wasn't able to stay in the program, which was totally understandable, but he didn't leave me in a lurch. He instead connected me to Svens Telemaque. He said that, Z, I can't continue, but I think I found somebody for you. On the phone, I was actually in Barcelona, ironically. I was freaking out. I didn't know how we were going to continue the program while I was on a planned vacation. And I spoke to this young man on the phone, and he said, if you believe in me, I got you. Whatever you need me to do, I got you. However I can help these people, I got you. Whatever you need for me to do to be able to get in the schools for these kids, I got you. So he, from this point on, has been known to me as my angel, because not only did he have my back, he blew every expectation out the water, and he did and continues to do phenomenal work. So that's the personal introduction about Svens. Before I pass it on to him fully, I want to tell you a little bit about him. Svens is a writer, he is a poet, he is a motivational speaker, he is a multifaceted giving person, and his bio reads as the following. Svens Telemaque ranks as one of the most in-demand speakers regarding youth empowerment today. After multiple arrests and various feats with death, he abandoned familiarity and a life of drug trafficking to start anew. Since relocating to Montreal in 2007, Svens has co-founded L'art Selah, a poetry collective which provides a platform for writers and infuses listeners with hope. In 2014, he released his first book entitled Pen of a Ready Writer Vol.1 and has been featured on CBC, Global News, BT, and other networks. As a social entrepreneur, Svens has been recognized as a regional finalist for Startup Canada and awarded the Community Leadership Award from Montreal Community Cares, amongst others. Svens has empowered thousands through his youth empowerment tour across the US, Canada, the Caribbean, and Africa. I pass the baton to you, Svens. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you so much for the invitation, Zita, as well as thank the CATS team and everybody that is online with me right now. I'm really blessed and humbled by your presence. We are around 70 people that are registered. At the moment, we're 35, so we can go ahead and start. I know that during this time, post-pandemic, a lot of us have a lot of different questions. There's a lot of uncertainty about how things will actually move. And I just want to open you up and show you how, although broken crayons can still color, how can you connect the dots between your past, your pain, and your purpose? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll start the presentation. As a speaker, I often hear a lot that people say you're supposed to start with jokes, but today I'm not going to start with a joke, but I'm going to start with a very daunting question, and feel free to answer. Where is the richest place in the world? Go ahead and mark your answer. Don't think too much about it. Just drop your answer in the chat. If you want to go ahead and say it over with your voice, you could go ahead and do that as well. But where is the richest place in the world? No wrong answers. So I'm looking at the chat right now. My soul, home, in one's mind and one's heart. My spirit. We got a lot of deep people here today. Huh? No one is saying Dubai, China, Africa, native country. I was going to say Singapore. All right. The world where there is quality for everyone. Vincenzo. They used to call me Vincenzo when they used to mess with me. All right. So with all of your deep answers, according to me and according to one of the people that I look up to the most, everyone is wrong. The richest place in the world, according to Dr. Miles Monroe, is actually the cemetery. Now, some of you might ask, why is the cemetery the richest place in the world? It's very simple. In the cemetery lies the best books that were never written. In the cemetery lies that message that you wanted to say to that cute person that you saw on the subway, but you never had the courage to say anything. So there lies a relationship that will never come to fruition. In the cemetery lies books, CDs, albums, thoughts, businesses, all of these wonderful things that people can actually put out there. In the cemetery lies potential. In the cemetery lies purpose. The second richest place that I would say would actually be prison, because prison is probably one of the greatest places of wasted potential, where people are behind bars and they are not even given an opportunity to contribute to society in a different way. Just a little spinoff before we go into the presentation. I remember the other day, we were having another Zoom such as this with DESTA, which is a Black youth organization. And we were talking about making a change when it comes to the correctional system. And something came to me, and I know it was something that was divine, because right now we're in a very big conversation over vaccines. Now, what is a vaccine? A vaccine is simply taking a virus, right? Taking that same virus, injecting it back into yourself so you can create some defense systems, right? The problem that we have when it comes to prison is we treat prisoners as if they are the virus of society. Keep them all the way over here, quarantine them in this box, keep them away. We can't do nothing with them. But if medicine shows us that we can take something that is bad and actually make it do good and actually save millions and millions of lives, why is it that we don't have that same mindset with people in prison? If you ask me, what is the cure to society? I would tell you the cure lies in prison. A lot of people might feel like that's a very extreme thing to say, but the majority of people in prison have already received the short end of the stick. Most of them have had broken families, broken issues, and they find themselves in a place where society has ultimately failed them. When you take someone out of that environment and you bless them with opportunities, with structure, planning, and different routes, you get what you're looking at right now. You're looking at him right now. This is what you get. So we'll go ahead and I'll explain to you why the name of this message is called Broken Crayons Still Color. I literally have 8 crayons here with me on the screen. And one day I remember I was surfing through the internet, and on my friend's Facebook page, I see the quote, broken crayons still color, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm going to explain it to you now, but I'm going to show you what each color represents. I don't like cue cards. I use crayons because I feel like cue cards are too 1996 and it's 2021. So first and foremost, I'm going to take you all on a journey on my personal life and your life as well. I really want you to not just think about me, but think about your story as I tell you mine. So blue will represent the blueprint. What environment and factors created you? Orange is going to be for the ego. How did you respond to that environment? What was your defense mechanisms? Brokenness, what broke you along the way? And as you notice, this is your descent for most of us. And as you climb your way up, we have green for gangrene. When it comes to green, I want you to think about infection. I want you to think about not letting things go. The purpose in your pain, purple. Everything that you go through, there is purpose in it. Yellow is for permission. And I'll explain that to you later. And red is for passion and frustration. Passion and frustration are very big key indicators when it comes to purpose. A lot of people in the university environment find themselves so lost. You'll have someone that pledged themselves to a master's degree, or even worse, a PhD degree, and they're not passionate about the subject. You have people that dedicate years and years and years to working at a company, but they do not feel fulfilled. They feel like they're missing out on their purpose. For me, that's another form of prison with golden bars and a nice package. And every year, maybe you'll have a week or 2 weeks to just step out of that prison and come right back in. So we're gonna go ahead and start the blueprint. When it comes to the image that you see on your screen right now, that was actually me at the age of 17. By the time I was 17, I was already arrested 5 times out of the 6. I was charged as an adult. I was making about 10 grand a week, selling half a key of cocaine. I had almost been kidnapped. I've had many different dealings with death, people trying to kill me. And through all of those situations, you might ask yourself, okay, how do you get there? And that is the question that a lot of us never really take the time to look at. You need to go back. If you want to serve from a place of purpose, you need to look at your environment and what created you. That means the relationship with your mom, dad, whether that was non-existent or not. You need to think about those things. And when I look at my environment, I recall being 12 years old in a very bad neighborhood. Although I was born in Montreal, my mom moved to Miami, Florida. I was raised in a very bad neighborhood When I would open the door, literally across the street, there was a crack house. 2 doors down, there was another crack house. When I would look out my bedroom window, my view was actually crackheads, prostitutes, and criminals going to the corner store, because that was a very popular place for people to go. So my view and my vision are correlated. And a lot of the times, sometimes we don't realize that the reason why we have the vision that we have for our life is because of the view. It's because of what we see, right? There is no one that will wake up on a fine day and just look out the window and say, hey, I want to be a drug dealer. I want to be a gangster. I want to be a bad person. But if in your view, you see 3 categories of people, who will you decide to be? 1, you see crack addicts and prostitutes approaching you as you go to school, asking you like, hey, do you have any change? You don't want to be that. You see the honest people working the 9 to 5. You don't want to be that either, because they don't seem to have anything to show for themselves. But then you see the dominant person in the arena in this chaos. And you see that's the young guy that's selling dope on the corner. And you tell yourself, man, he looks dominant. He has something to show for himself. And you navigate towards that. Maybe for you, it was something different. Maybe for you, it was sports. Maybe around you to be a man meant to be sportive. Or maybe for you as a woman, when you look into your environment in South Africa, you realize that the women that you looked up to, they were into fashion. So you navigated towards fashion as a way to find your value, appreciation, approbation, whatever you want to call it. In my case, my reference points in my darkness were the things that shined the most. And just to really get you to grasp that, the majority of youth can be likened to people in a field in the darkness, right? Back in the day, we used to use the stars to navigate, right? When we didn't have a compass and you don't have a map. Most youth are like that. They have no map, no compass. They find themselves in the darkness. And what are they using to navigate? They're using stars, literally. Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, all the Kardashians. They look at all of these people shining and they try to navigate according to their light. Whether that light is artificial or it's actually true light, who knows? And this is the problem that we have in our society and youth. A lot of us are not shining enough. A lot of us are afraid to shine. And we're going to get into that later. But I found myself following the light that I saw that was artificial, and I just kept going towards that light. My mom was also involved in a lot of illegal business. And my mom used to be robbed. She used to get robbed quite often. And one of those times she got robbed, I was actually there. I tried to stop it. I couldn't. I was too small. I remember going to school and people would just put me down because of the clothes that I was wearing. They would always put me down because of my shoes. Living in this very materialistic system, it made me realize that I had no value. And now we're going to go towards orange. That Scotch tape that everyone is familiar with, I feel like I had Scotch tape on a tattered soul. You can't keep your soul together with Scotch tape. And what I tried to do in response to people breaking me down based on the things that I did not have, based on the activities that I was involved in, and based on just the opinions of other people, I put Scotch tape all over my heart. And that Scotch tape was in the form of the image that you see here. I put golds in my mouth because I felt like that would give me more value. I dressed in a certain way because I felt like people would respect me based on what they saw, not based on my personality and who I was. Now, for some of you, you might feel like, you know what? I don't come from a ghetto. I don't know what you're talking about. This has nothing to do with me. Well, it has everything to do with you because everyone has an ego. And if you look into your ego, some people will use their academia to find a way to have value. Some people will use the logo of a Mercedes-Benz to have value. Some people will hide behind the brand name of clothes or look towards social media to show people, look, I'm valuable. And when you have conversations with different people, they will pretty much let you know how they measure people based on the things that they feel like give them the most value. If you were the type of person that when you were in school, people would put you down all the time because, you were the smart person or you were always into the books, and you wanted to be that sportive type person, but that you just didn't have that physique, 20, 30 years later, maybe that's your place of comfort, to just lose yourself in academia so people can kind of like give you value or respect. But that is not enough. That's Scotch tape. Money, opportunity, what people think about you, all of it is Scotch tape. You know what that means if it's Scotch tape? It's flimsy. It has to be replaced often. And it loses its adhesiveness quite frequently. And that's something that I had to learn the long and hard way. Now, if we go to the next color, we go to brown. I'm going to take the time and I'm going to open up myself to you all. And I'm going to ask you all to do the same. If you're willing to do so, if you can just go in the comments and tell me that you are willing to do so. Just in the comments, say, I will share. So we got Carolyn. We'll try to go with at least 4 people. Scared but willing. Yes, I love it. Guy. Scudel, yes. Somebody else? Chantal and Vincenzo. We'll stop right there. And if we have more time, we'll add Irina as well. Just to be sure, Valerie, is it possible to spotlight other people?
It is.
Okay, perfect. So we'll spotlight all of you after I share. Normally, everybody in the room would have a crayon. And when I pass everybody this crayon, when we talk about what broke us, what I'm going to do is just break this crayon and put it down. So a lot of you might, you might ask yourselves, okay, like I understand that, you sold your dope, you did this, you did that, heard plenty of stories like that. But how do you find yourself right now in your living room talking to some people at McGill? What got you to make this transition? And I want to open up and be completely sincere with all of you. And here we go. And I'm going to ask all of you to do the same. You'll be spotlighted one after the other. So by the time, like I told you, I was 17, 18, I was making so much money and I was on the road about 18 hours a day. I had my partner. This right here means partner in crime, this tattoo that you can see here on my hand, and it's actually on my neck. My partner is actually deported in Haiti. He's been there since 2006. The person that used to supply me with cocaine, he was deported as well. He was assassinated last summer. And there's just one person left who's actually changed their life around. But in all of this, nothing could get me to stop. I never had my papers in the States, so I couldn't get a job. My mom didn't have her papers. We were illegal immigrants in Miami, Florida, and I became a product of my environment. One of the things that got me to stop, or the things that got me to stop and to change my life around, were the things that I was not prepared for. If you asked anybody that is a mechanic, when you're a mechanic, what do? You buy tools. You're not surprised when someone comes with a car that never got an oil change. You're not surprised. People are negligent like that. You buy tools. When you're a professor, you buy books that you need to read so you can prepare for the people that you're going to teach. Regardless of the profession that you choose, whether you respect it or not, you prepare yourself. So for myself, I prepared myself against the police. I would dress like I worked at Walmart, literally. I would have a back brace on. I would try my best to look like an employee. So when they stopped me, they would not frisk me as much. They would see employee. I would put guns in different places in my cars, just in case someone tried to run up on me. At a certain point, I had 6 to 7 guns in my house, and I would never stop. I would just keep on getting different guns because you feel like the more guns you have safety. I tried my best to keep my circle small. Because I was living in Miami, we would board up the windows all the time, right? And since we would board up the windows all the time, I had a perfect location where people thought it was actually abandoned, but that's where I stashed most of my cocaine, and I would cook my crack so I can go ahead, prepackage and sell. But nothing prepared me for the day when I'm just literally coming on my block, I come on my block, my street. I had 2 people working for me and I just wanted to pop up, see how things are going. At this point and stage in my life, my face has become a billboard to get high. So anytime someone sees me, let me get 1, let me get 2, let me get 4. And this woman approaches me and she wants to get high. So as she approaches me, I'm really upset because she comes with her son. I don't want to see it. Why are you coming with your son on the street to purchase crack, right? So when she approaches me, she tells me even worse, she doesn't have any money. And I'm like, okay, so why are you here? What do you think she offers me? Take a guess. She didn't offer me her son, and she didn't offer me sex or sexual favors like most people would think. And that's something that would happen very often. You know what she did? She pulled out a plastic bag. And in that plastic bag, she had his PlayStation 2. All my entire youth, all I wanted was a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo 64, a Sega Genesis. That's all I wanted in my youth. My mom would never get it to me. So it hit me like a ton of bricks to see this young man watching his mom in this zombie-like figure pass over his PlayStation 2 in a bag with the controllers wrapped around it, looking at his lifeless mom, and he's looking at me like a monster. Suddenly, the golds in my mouth have no value, neither the money in my pocket. And I actually, for the first time, I realized my impact on my community. It wasn't the times that there was a specific father that would come panicking at the crack house, knocking on the door, beating down the door, asking us, where is his wife? Knowing that his wife was in the back. And he was in the car with his kids in the front, panicking, trying to find his wife. It wasn't the other time where I remember selling drugs to actually one of my friend's parents. And as I'm walking out after making my transaction, he's walking in and he looks at me like a traitor. It was that situation that got me to see things differently. And it made me realize that money had no more value. You know why? Because this wasn't me. And maybe you're not working, doing something that has a negative impact on other people. But as you're working, is the motor behind what you do your ego? Are you focused on the dollars that you're making? Because one thing that is for sure and certain, remember what I told you earlier, the richest place in the world is a cemetery. One thing is for sure, do you really want to dedicate all your time to something as low as money? Is that really worth your time? Something that a lot of people don't know about me is I'm actually in the military as well. And if you're in Montreal, you probably remember last year during COVID, they actually got the military to get involved with the retirement homes. And I was actually in that operation and working in the retirement homes. I worked in 2. And in working in those retirement homes, I was so conflicted because to be quite honest with you, I see COVID-19 in a completely different way, because what I saw really kill people was being alone. Being alone, not being able to eat with their friends anymore and play cards and keep each other going, because sometimes they don't receive visits, but they stayed in their room by themselves. And they had absolutely nothing to look forward to except the walls getting changed and getting the same old food that they didn't like anyway. And when I realized that time is not something that you should take for granted. We take so much time building these fortunes and doing these great big things, and then you end up in one small room by yourself if you don't focus on the most important thing. And you know what that is? Purpose and your impact on other people. There is no one that is going to be on their deathbed saying that, hey man, I want to drive my Bentley just one more time. The last thing that people have really is either regrets that haunt them, or they're at peace because they know they loved from a place of sincerity. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. The people that mentioned that they wanted to talk about what broke them. Also, too, when I was 8 years old, I got molested That's something else that broke me. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the door to the people that mentioned. I believe the first person, let's see here, Carol, was it Carolyn? Yeah, Carolyn, Vincenzo, Irina. If you guys could go ahead and you'll be spotlighted, and when you're spotlighted, you could talk about what broke you.
Carolyn, if you'd like to unmute yourself, feel free to keep your camera off if you prefer.
Yeah, she's sharing through the chat. I don't have audio.
Okay. So deaf is one of those things that breaks us, right? She said deaf, she said addiction, divorce. We'll go ahead and go to the next person. Thank you so much for your courage and strength. We'll go ahead and move to Vincenzo. There was also Trudell. I'm forgetting your first name. Guy. Yeah, Guy. We also had Guy. I think Vincenzo is ready. Just unmute.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna take the route that I'm gonna be perfectly honest. And I think my path to self-destruction has been making my top priority materialism. And it's been about 20 years, I would say, roughly, where I have been heavily immersed in investing in the stock market. And stock markets are roller coaster rides. They're very self-indulgent, highly egotistical. Your bottom line is the most important thing that you do. It's been a very long time that I've realized that I haven't been happy. It's taken me a long time to realize that I don't live life with a purpose. And I've devoid myself of having the pleasure of helping others, providing value for other people, which I've been doing. Basically, I would consider just started doing over the last few years to understand what is it that provides value to other people. The focus on materialism has put me in so many phases of crisis, which were difficult to understand, but actually are plain and simple, really, because I see that with time and experience, my attitude has really been incorrect. I haven't shared my life with others. It's brought me to a lot of isolation, and you just can't really appreciate life if everything is focused on how many dollars you make every day. So basically what broke me is just having an ego focused on money and trying to build up that pile of cash. And when you go through some major stock market crashes, it's like your life has basically come to a standstill. So I would say that's basically it. And I'm just on my path to healing and listening to great people like Svens and learning about other cultures and seeing what provides value for them. And hopefully I'll reach my goal of finding a purpose in my life.
You will. Thank you so much, Vincenzo. Quick question for you, Vincent. I told you they used to call me Vincent when I used to work construction in this
Sure.
Italian company. Do you know what your name means? You know the meaning of your name?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. No,
It means prevail. Your
prevail.
name means prevail, and you will prevail. You will conquer. You will win for sure. We're gonna move to Irina, and we have one more person after that. Just want to be good on time. So Irina, if you could go ahead and share.
Yes, so a lot of things breaks me. I think about rejection, the feeling of rejection, the feeling of not like to not fit, not fitting. Heartbreak breaks me, and also the realization that I've been self-centered for a long period of my life, realizing that I was not there, not enough for my sister, for my family, that I was like too self-centered, and me, I kind of find my purpose, and it became an obsession, and I felt like it almost put me in a bubble when I was like, I have to make it, I have to make it, and I kind of forget people around me, and I realized during COVID that I need to, that loving other people is the thing that lasts long forever. So trying to change that. Thank
Amen.
you.
Beautiful. Lovely. I love all of the vulnerability and the transparency that you all are showing. There was one more person. Let me just try to find that name. Was it you, Valerie, that said you wanted to share? I know it was it's Chantal. There we go. And Val, would you like to as well?
Sure. If you want me to,
All
I'll be courageous and do that.
right, Chantal, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, Chantal, the amazing Chantal.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody.
Just
Um,
one thing, Chantal. Just
yes,
know that just because of timing,
keep it short.
yeah, that's it. But oh, this woman here is something else.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My journey started with my father that was very abusive and actually slashed open my throat when I was 1 year old. And because he was jealous of my mother and didn't want her to forget him. As a result, my mother always hid him. And then eventually she started to deny me as her daughter. She would introduce me to people as her sister when I was 15. And for over 40 years, she would just introduce me, would say she didn't want anyone to know she had a daughter my age. I ended up in abusive relationships that were just like my father, people putting knives on my throat every day, being raped by 2 men, as well as being sexually assaulted by my mother's boyfriend. So I always had a feeling of having no value. And to my immediate family, I have a lot of value to my very, very close friends. And so sometimes it's very challenging to press on. I never got involved in drugs or alcohol, but some days it's a challenge to keep pressing on. So I think, I'm not sure if that's the line I'm supposed to go on, Svens, but just knowing that my purpose is more probably in my job where I teach, and I enjoy trying to save as many children as I can, I guess, with trying to help them, but still working on having my own self-worth. So.
Beautiful. This is Chantal connecting with us actually from the island of Bermuda. Wonderful individual, and she's gonna have a book coming out very soon. Very, very soon. So if you could wrap up, Valerie, and then we'll go from there. I'll take you to the next part.
Okay, I'm going to be very short, and sharing is not my thing. For those of you that know me and work with me, I'm not a big sharer, but I will make the jump for this session. I think one of the things that has broken me is loneliness. I was the only child for a very long time. My parents moved us to England, where my dad was training as a doctor. England in the 80s was not necessarily friendly to the one Black family in the neighborhood. So I spent a good part of my life being teased, having a really tough time fitting in and making friends. And I feel that's something that has followed me over the years. So connecting with people and sharing has been one of those challenges that I've kind of kept with me. I'm not really sure what the solution is because I don't necessarily have that experience of having a wide circle. And sometimes it's tough, but part of my personality is that I feel from the outside looking in, most people assume that I've got everything going for me and everything is perfect because I don't show that brokenness. And it's helped me in terms of my work because, and it's one of the reasons why I'm empathetic with other people, is because I walk with a lot of stigmas, a lot of stereotypes, a lot of assumptions, and it hurts. And my personality doesn't allow me to show it, but it's there. And I feel everyone has some degree of that. So it's important whenever you're speaking to people, interacting with people, to always do it with kindness. That's it.
Beautiful. So I just want to thank you all for being so transparent. If you really pay attention to everything that you all said, none of it is something that only a select group of people will actually deal with. Everyone deals with bullying. We all go through a stage in life where we may be self-centered. Starts off at the terrible twos, and then, you know, sometimes it just carries on. A lot of us, sometimes we could be centered on advancing our careers or advancing when it comes to our money profiles. Vincenzo, I really love your heart. You're so deep. Every culture has domestic violence, different type of issues, family issues, sibling rivalries, all of these things, addiction, divorce, all of these very painful situations are a reality for society in every single walk of life. And a lot of us, sometimes we feel like this after we're broken. And not only do we feel like this, we also feel like we have no label. And I'll explain to you this and then we'll move forward. We don't have much time, so I'm going to breeze through. But the reason why I go with this title is simple. You see this crayon, it looks perfect, right? When you used to color, you would love a brand new crayon like this. But what happens is, if your mom used to call you Vinny, right? And then you go to school, and instead of people calling you a sweet name like Vinny, they look at you and they tell you you're fat. They look at you and they call you another word because you're Black in an all-white community. You know, you walk in a different ways. So guys might call you a sissy, or people might call you quit, whatever the case may be. It's like this label, this protective label that you used to have, that your family provided for you because it gave you identity. You had a place at home. You were the cherished person. Maybe sometimes it's not the case. You go into an environment like school and now you have no identity. And now you go through brokenness. So what do you do when you do not know your identity? If you don't know your identity, you're kind of confused with your purpose. Because even though I'm green, am I tropical green? Am I the green that's supposed to be coloring the trees, or am I the green that's supposed to be, you know, the forest green that I'll use on an army outfit? Who knows? And speaking of green, that's going to be our next color, liquidation. Now, there's a very big lie when it comes to the brokenness that you have. There's this lie that tells you that time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time does not heal all wounds. I did not want to show you any images of gangrene because it's absolutely disgusting and scary. But when you think about gangrene, I want you to think about these places where you're broken. Sometimes they get infected with anger. And anger is not a bad thing, but we need to make sure that our anger is constructive and we use it as a way to propel us towards our purpose. Anger is one of the greatest sources of energy, and anger is a secondary emotion, which means you feel something else. You're being bullied, you feel rejection before you feel anger. You go through divorce, you might feel rejection before you're very mad at that spouse for whatever reason it may be. But I want you to think about those places where you feel hurt, where you feel shame, where you feel disqualified. I want you to think about that like a cut on your finger. Imagine if you stuck your finger in the dirt and you just let time go by. Will time heal that wound? It will only infect it. And in working in prison, there's a prison in Laval called CFF, Centre Formation Fédérale. And in working there, I met this this person, and he was already doing about 30 years in prison. We couldn't have been more different from each other. He was Québécois. He got in there for murder. It was his second murder. His first murder was actually more like a brawl in a bar. The second one, he found himself in a situation where he was on a heroin binge. He felt like someone was trying to steal his heroin. He shot the person and chopped the person up, put him in a fridge, took a plane to South America. 25 years later plus, he finds himself in prison in a focus group with me, and we're talking, and I'm trying to get him to open up. And you see this, it is a concept that I want to bring to you using this. This is an iPhone 11 Pro. Next year, this phone is going to be old. Next year, this phone you could probably get completely free. If not $100 or $200, and you get some kind of contract. You know why? TELUS, Rogers, or whatever phone company that you have in your city does not have the time and the space to house old things. They make more money and more profit off of new things. We must adopt the same mindset. When it comes to your brokenness, we cannot carry everything within us and allow it to take more space than it's supposed to have. All that pain that you go through is carving you out. And when you look at marble, or when you look at clay, imagine all the pain that you go through as something carving you out and making space for you to be able to contain something. That's how you got to look at everything that you go through, that divorce, the addiction, every single thing, all of the things that we try to sweep under the rug and we feel like we don't want no one to know about. It's showing up on the surface anyway. We might as well pull it out and extract it and actually pimp it. That's something that I told a friend who passed away, unfortunately. I told her to pimp her pain. That's another way that I could break this down. If I ask any of you, would you allow me to pimp you on St. Catherine Street? You always say, no, I have too much value for myself. But what if I told you that if you continue to allow where you've fallen short or what people have done to you to paralyze you, you're letting your pain pimp you, it's exploiting you. You might as well exploit your pain. You might as well write a book about it. You might as well start speaking about it openly and with pride and with joy, and realizing that these things don't define you, they align you. Your brokenness does not define you, it aligns you. And we're going to go into the next thing, which is purpose, purple. Everything can be taken from a man, but the last of human freedoms is to choose your attitude. One of the people that I admire most is Viktor Frankl. Now, for some of you, I'm quite sure you already know who Viktor Frankl is, but for some of you who don't, I'll explain really quickly. Viktor Frankl was actually someone that was in the Holocaust, lost everything, family, opportunities, time, friends, and he comes out of the Holocaust and creates his own branch of psychology entitled logotherapy. His book, A Man's Search for Meaning, is said to be one of the greatest books ever written. And after reading this book and actually studying a bit of logotherapy, I realized even though he could actually prescribe medicine, you know what he would do when people would be depressed? He would tell people, you know what, you're depressed. Instead of giving people pills, he would tell them, okay, you feel like you have no purpose. That's why you want to take your life. You feel like there's no value in your life. How about you go volunteer at a children's hospital? 9 times out of 10, people would come back to him completely changed. Why? Because they found a reason to live. Now, if we got to this point and you felt like you wasted your time in this session, I'll give you something that you can go home with. It's this. 50% of your purpose is serving other people, whether you're serving fries, whether you're working at McGill on this Catskills team, whatever you do, you're going to end up serving people. Your purpose is 50% of that. The other 50% It's finding out, how can I serve someone else and feel like I'm serving me? That same financial knowledge that you have, Vincenzo, that was something that really kind of controlled your life, could maybe be that same financial information that you could provide to disadvantaged communities and help them and empower them. And you could kind of change that completely around. You could actually help maybe people that have chronic issues with gambling when it comes to the stock market, and teach them how to deal with that stress so they're not dominated by these things. That addiction, Carolyn, could actually be something that you can do to kind of like maybe work with different women in different places of society that are too afraid to say, hey, I have too much pain in my heart. This is how I'm dealing with it. All of that brokenness is something that we should bring to the light. Something else that I want to share with you all before we move forward is this. Let me just do a time check real quick. Is everyone here has a sword in a stone. If you're familiar with King Arthur, there was a moment where this young man sees the sword in the stone. No one can take this sword out except one person, and it was Arthur. I'm here to tell you all, the pain that you have is a message, and that message cannot be dislocated by nobody else but you. When you pull out that sword like Vincenzo, Valerie, Irina, and Carolyn just did, when you pull out that sword, the more truthful you are, the more sharp your message. And the more time that you take to actually study your past and to study everything that you've been through, the more you'll be able to work that message to be very efficient. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I'm going to go ahead and just speak to you live, and we'll go to the last couple of colors. We'll try to make it through. We have red, and we have yellow, and we have black. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is yellow, because yellow stands for shining, and it also represents permission. When I was going to high school, we used to have these permission slips whenever we wanted to do anything. It would say where you came from, your name, where you're going, and the class you just left. The teacher had to sign it. We got smart and we just stole the whole package, and we would just sign our own permission slips and do whatever we had to do. I'm bringing some memories for Carolyn, huh? Back in the day there, huh? I'm telling you. So you know what I realized? You do not need permission. You do not need permission to write your book. You do not need permission for you to go ahead and speak openly about what you're learning and what you're processing. You don't need anyone's permission. And one of the reasons why the cemetery is so full is because we're looking for permission. There's this thing called imposter syndrome, where a lot of us feel so compelled and so pushed to do something great, something out of our comfort zone. And there's that little voice in the back of your head telling you, who do you think you are? You're not able to do something like that. I remember when I published my first book, I had this voice that kept telling me, you don't have a degree. Who's going to read your book? What are you talking about? Like, you mess up so much when it comes to grammar. Your grammar sucks. And I published it anyway, and hundreds and hundreds of books sold later. I don't even care anymore. Shine. When you look at Marianne Williamson's poem called Our Greatest Fear, our deepest fear is what? That we are great, that we are powerful beyond measure. Stop selling yourself short because you don't want to shine. Red, passion and frustration. Just as much as some of you feel like, well, I don't know my passion, I'm quite sure you know what gets you frustrated. Frustration is a very great tool to propel you when it comes to purpose. And if you ask yourself sometimes, why am I going through what I go through? You're going through what you go through to serve. The reason why you're broken is because that's where you need to serve from. If you notice, if we open up a group about divorce and everyone here that's divorced, it'll be like best friends in one room, regardless of where you come from. Why? Because that pain is so familiar. Pain is a language that few people understand. If you have that same pain, you will actually override conversations and time of getting to know each other because of that transparency. You follow me? And the more vulnerable and the more transparent, the more this room will feel like just a family meeting. Passion. Something that I like to remind you right now is every single day, AI is being used to remove people. But something that AI cannot do is create passion. That's something that we all have, frustration. Frustration can actually deal with a lot of social ills. Connect your frustration with your academia, connect your frustration with everything that you do, and I guarantee you, you'll be much more fulfilled. Start off small, maybe just volunteering and seeing how you can bring more purpose into your life. Because of time, we're going to go ahead and move to the last color. But of course, the most important color of all in that 8-pack Crayola is, of course, black. And I'm not saying this because I'm black, so don't be mad. The reason why I'm telling you black is the most important, you know why? Did you know that black contains every other color inside of it? Did you know that? Why do you use black? First of all, back in the day when you used to color, what would you use black for? You would use black for borders. I'm going to close in telling you all two things. The first thing is this. It is up to you to put a border around your life. Unfortunately, sometimes we'll draw out a border in prison. We'll draw out a border at a dead-end job, a toxic relationship, or we'll find ourselves in a place that does not bring us joy. During the pandemic, the fact that a lot of people had to stay home, they realized that, wow, I don't like my place. I don't like this. I can't escape this. I can't take a vacation and just do whatever I want to do. I can't go to a bar or a club and make it seem my life is something that is not. I'm forced to deal with my reality. When you look at your reality now, do you accept that you have that crayon in your hand? You know what else that this crayon represents? Love, hope, and faith. The love that you have for self and community, the hope in yourself that you have exactly what you need to change it, and the faith that you are the answer to the problem. So I like to end with this quote, and I thank you all for taking the time. Usually for 1 hour with so much people, it's not possible, but I feel like you guys got the gist of my message. I want you to remember this quote if there's nothing that you remember from me at all, and it goes as follows. Tears may bombard my cheeks. Sweat may surge over my brows. Blood may stain my fingertips, but as long as I believe in my why, I will find a how. I'm going to repeat that again. So tears may bombard my cheeks. Sweat may surge over my brows. Blood may stain my fingertips, but as long as I believe in my why, I will find a how. Stop worrying about how. How does not even matter. Just make sure that that why is pure, and you will always find yourself getting to the how. The how always stops little minds, and no one here has a little mind. Thank you so much for having me, and Valerie, you can take the floor.
And I think we just need a minute just to absorb the session. Thank you so much. Looking at the chat, we have a lot of thank yous, a lot of wow. Such a profound message. When Zita recommended you, she spoke very highly of you. She said, we need to meet you and we'll see what she's talking about. And she has never been so right. She's normally right, but she was right in this situation. Thank you. You're inspiring. Thank you for sharing your message. It takes a lot of courage. Having heard your story, having heard what you've been through, and to see where you are now and to share your light with all of us is beyond amazing. So thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Nayo, who can close the proceedings.
Thank you, Svens, and thank you, Valerie, and everyone else who shared today. I normally never really get emotional. I think you really got us very deep, and a lot of self-reflection, childhood memories came back. Just can't say enough how important everything that you're doing, the work that you're doing with the youth, with the community, empowering them. And yes, would love to have you again. And I see Zita is here too. Just want to say thank you so much for finding this gem. I think even if we're over time, I see everyone is still staying because we don't want to miss a minute. And again, yeah, on behalf of everyone, the team, anyone else, thank you, Sven. We normally promote the next session. I feel that the vibe is a little bit different this time, but there is there is other sessions here going on after the break. We do have a lunch break today, so this is happy for you. We're going to be sharing here in the chat. We have Maral Habadjian, who's going to be talking about change management, Jessica Goyer talking about networking do's and don'ts, and Anita will be also talking about a leadership topic. So again, thank you, Amelia, thank you, Zita, for sharing.
Oh, this is all my brother right over here. This is all my angel. This is not me. This is all my angel. But you guys see why I call him an angel though, right? Like he literally called out of the blue and says, listen, I got you, whatever you need. And every single time, every single way he shows up like this. And so you have brought such light to all of us. And thank you for being you.
Thank you so much. I'm really blessed with the opportunity. All of the information to follow me online, or to, if you guys are interested in the poetry book, is all there. And yeah, just really blessed. And do not let anything that you have been going through phase you. Everything that happens to you is happening for you. Not to you, but it's happening for you. That's it, that's all.
Thank you. Merci tout le monde alors. End of the recording.